One of the ways that producers root content in reality is to just overtly tell us that the content is real. Reality programming has been with us almost since the beginning of television in the form of things like game shows and talk shows, but it's become a very common and financially lucrative genre over the last 15 to 20 years. There are reasons for its popularity. First of all, reality programs tend to be less expensive to produce than scripted programs. You don't have to hire a writer, you don't need celebrities to occupy the key roles, and so there's just fewer people on staff. And so cost savings are realized. If you can generate the same audience, but lower your production costs, then your profits have increased. The formula for most reality programs is utterly simple. You place a group of people in some sort of competitive situation and then observe. Reality programs are subsequently edited to emphasize conflict and stress rather than emphasizing the sort of run-of-the-mill kinds of interactions that are going to characterize individuals in any situation. In this way, once again, we see the idea of rooting a program in the real. You take real people, but then you put them in a situation that is unreal, right? Think about Survivor, which is kind of the classic reality program. It takes people from all walks of life, but then it puts them on a deserted island or in the middle of the savannah in Africa, and they're required to stay together, not seek help from the rest of the world, and then they're given strange competitive tasks that they have to complete. That's not real, right? That's something beyond real. So in many ways, this is very similar to other kinds of entertainment programming. Researchers have spent some time and energy looking at reality programming to investigate its appeal and its effects, with some interesting results. First of all, research has shown that reality television is not seen as more realistic than scripted television. Think about that for a second. Reality TV is not seen as more realistic than scripted television. There's a reason for this. People recognize that what they're watching when they see reality television is not objective reality, that it's manipulated, it's altered, it's something else. So that recognition is there. In addition, the very characteristics of reality television that make it most real, the people from ordinary walks of life and so forth, also make it relatively unusual for television. When I watch a situation comedy, I watch something that pretends to be sort of an everyday, ordinary set of experiences for some group of people. I see their everyday life, and to a certain extent that feels familiar. When I watch reality programming, I see people who, yes, may be kind of like me or like the people that I see, but they're put into situations that are not normal, that are not natural, that are, in fact, relatively unreal. And so the balancing a balancing act sort of takes place, and I realize that reality television is not, in fact, any more realistic than scripted television. Reality programs, however, are seen as something distinct and different from scripted television. People don't categorize them in the same way as they categorize situation comedies and dramas and other fictional programming. So we recognize it as different, even though we don't see it as more realistic. The way we respond to reality television also differs from the way we respond to scripted programming. One interesting body of research looked at the predictors of enjoyment for reality television and scripted television. And they found something fairly interesting. So when it comes to reality programming, experiencing surprise increases enjoyment. So if I'm watching a reality show and I'm surprised by something that I see, then my enjoyment goes up. But For scripted programming, my enjoyment actually declines when I experience surprise. This might seem a little counterintuitive, but think for a minute about a situation comedy or a police drama. If at the end of the situation comedy, everyone's dead and miserable, that'd be a surprise, but we wouldn't appreciate it, right? We'd feel like we were misled or deceived. At the end of a police drama, if the bad guys get away and the good guys get fired and there's no hope of them coming back, we're surprised, but we're not happy with it. Fictional programming tends to follow a sort of predictable set of storylines, and when it deviates from what we expect, we enjoy it less. Reality programming, on the other hand, we kind of think we know what we're going to expect, but we expect in part to be surprised. So when we are surprised, we see it as something enjoyable. On the other hand, the experience of transportation, that state of getting carried away into our media messages, results in increased enjoyment for scripted programming, but a decrease in enjoyment for reality programming. Again, this kind of makes sense. Think about why we watch scripted programming. We kind of want to get caught up and carried away. We want to get lost in the narrative. We probably feel a little bit foolish getting caught up in the same way in response to Big Brother or Cake Boss or Cupcake Wars or something like that. Most of the motivations that drive us to pay attention to reality programs are actually the same as those that lead us to pay attention to scripted programs. Things like interest in relaxation or to be entertained and so forth. There are, however, a number of motivations that are fairly distinct for reality programming. We watch out of curiosity, which is not a strong predictor of watching scripted programming. We watch out of a desire to learn, which seems a little strange, but some reality programs do at least pretend to provide some educational or instructional content. Think about Hell's Kitchen or The Amazing Race or some program like this, where the competition occurs in a context that suggests an opportunity to learn. And then entertainment motivations are just general across both. One interesting body of research points at an intersection between reality programming and the use of social media sites, particularly Facebook. I mean, think about it for a second, and you can probably come up with some ways that social networking sites are kind of like reality TV. They pretend to document reality, but at the same time both are highly edited, carefully selected, and end up depicting something that isn't really real at all. I mean, think about it for a minute. Is your Facebook self or your Snapchat self or your Twitter self the same as your real self? If I look at the you online, do I have an accurate understanding of who the real you is? Well, interestingly, to a certain extent, the answer is probably. Researchers have found that if I, after some training, make a guess as to your personality traits based on your Facebook account, my guesses will actually be correlated with the scores that you earn or that you produce if you complete the measures of these personality traits yourself. So there's something realistic anyway about your Facebook profile. They tend to differ, however, in degree. If I perceive you as being introverted in real life, or based on your Facebook, for example, then you're probably even more introverted in real life. Another survey looked at the relationship between exposure to reality programming and a variety of social networking kinds of behavior. They actually found some interesting relationships. For example, the more time people spend watching reality programs, the more time they also spend on social networking sites. This is interesting because normally we would expect more time on one thing would mean less time on the other, right? We have a finite amount of time. In fact, though, more time with reality programming means more time on social networking sites. It also means a greater number of friends on those sites, friends, followers, what have you. And in addition, a greater percentage of those friends are people that I don't know in real life. So watching more reality programs is associated with spending more time online, having a greater number of friends, but having friends that I don't really know, right? I think about a few years ago when Facebook was more popular, people would go to great lengths to pile up greater numbers of friends. You know, my kids do this when they first get a Facebook account. You know, they friend the people they actually know, and then they send friend invitations to everybody that's friended to those people. More friends is seen as good. It's almost like they want a bigger audience for their life, or their life as they post it on Facebook. In addition to these other differences, individuals who spend more time watching reality television programming also engage in photo sharing through social networking sites more frequently. They seem to be creating, to some extent, their own little reality show on Facebook. So